most AI projects, right, they start and they don't kind of go anywhere, at least in this, the last couple of years within it, because it's like, well, I'm going to do something. I want to really use this tech. And, I think this would be a cool application. All true, all good stuff. But at the end of the day, it didn't solve a problem that the customers were really needing to really simplify.
From Aderant, this is Studio A, the podcast that helps legal professionals like you stay on top of trends and solutions that keep your law firm thriving. Welcome to Studio A, powered by Aderant, your podcast for insightful conversations shaping the legal tech industry. I'm your host, Will Ayers, and we are super excited about this episode because we have someone who is at the forefront of driving innovation across the legal tech space. Today, we welcome Andy Hoyt, Chief Technology Officer at Aderant. Andy, welcome to Studio A.
Hey, thanks, Will. Really appreciate it. Always love chatting with you, and excited to get going with this. I think some exciting topics here today.
Very, very, very exciting topics. Very exciting time for the legal tech space and for Aderant as well. Before we get into our questions, AI is a huge topic across all industries. It's always at the top of the news cycle as it pertains to technology. For those that want to learn from the experts, just tell us what AI is and how is it able to generate data so quickly?
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of, start it off just from an overall kind of topic perspective. And so really, when we think about it, right, artificial intelligence, right, and it's that, simulation of our human intelligence in machines that are really, programmed to think, learn, and make decisions that are out there. So, quite frankly, right, then to net it out, it's really being able to, take some human tasks, automate it, make it more efficient, right, with as little as human intervention as possible, right? There's nothing there that's perfect around it, but it's really the enablement of doing human-related tasks a whole lot simpler and easier. And quite frankly, maybe even taking away some of those things that are a little tedious or takes a longer time. It can do it a little bit more efficiently and whatnot. So it's taking kind of, our knowledge, our brains, everything that's been out there, and trying to automate the whole thing through machine learning.
Now, I love speaking with you because you've been in the industry on the innovation side, driving a lot of innovation across many different verticals, even prior to joining Aderant. What excites you the most about AI and the way that it's being applied across legal tech?
Don't want to date myself too much, but 20 plus years in the software industry, and even thinking back maybe 20 years before that, certainly AI is the greatest kind of game changer of all of the technology. There was some really cool stuff with cloud technology and what that actually offered, whether it be for end users consuming it to build applications, deploy, innovate faster, and do all of those different aspects there. And there was a lot of technology and things that went around that and different choices that were coming out and, to really shape it. But it really allowed us to go move faster. With AI, it's really taking it to an entirely new level. Now, the foundation of cloud and all that stuff has really enabled us to be able to do it at our fingertips and other aspects. But it goes back into, I want to be able to do things more efficiently, faster than ever before. And so those are the things when I think about, if you've got 10 hours in a day, right, you can do maybe 50% even more than you were able to before because the technology enables you to do that, whether that's writing code and a kind of auto-completing some of the things for you, helping you generate things from the get-go, other aspects there. Or if you're an end user of the technology, being able to have it at your fingertips to work where you want, when you want, how you want, regardless on any device, and being able to get information at your fingertips to then be able to, do a task for you as the end user really is a game changer. And quite frankly, I think we're just at the beginning of kind of what this world is going to look like from an AI perspective, because it's continuing to evolve. It's continuing to grow and get better across the board.
I'm glad you said that, because something that I love is the way that AI can be applied to different verticals to drive productivity and efficiency. Even in my world, being able to build PowerPoints, transcribe interviews, there's just so many things that AI can do to enable you to do more, just like you said. When we're talking about law firms and legal tech, what type of enhancements does AI provide to law firms and legal professionals that are trying to run a better business or get the job done on a daily basis?
Yeah, there's so much that it can really do across the law firms that we serve overall, and just all law firms kind of across the globe. Certainly there's, when we think about it, there's a lot that we talk about, and then you think about the news and other things that have been happening over the last 2 years or so, you see a lot more on, I'll just say, the practice of law side of things. And you think about, just being able to do analysis around contracts and other things, document drafting and review, certainly legal research and litigation support, and all of the different things that lawyers really, have to do on a day-to-day basis around how do they practice and serve their clients in the best way. And they're the technology in order to be able to go enable that. Very similarly, right, with your example with, being able to generate the PowerPoint and generate and summarize other information, right? It's that same underlying technology that can serve the firms in that practice of law side. And so really good. But in addition to that, it really then starts to say, this is where, quite frankly, we play, right? Within an Aderant side of being able to, and I use the words that you kind of, shared there, which is run a better business. How do they run their business from a law firm perspective in the most efficient way possible that then serves their clients well? And that's where, that business of law side really comes into play, where we can really do it. And it comes into, lots of different things, right? Whether it be, aspects where how can I better understand my contracts or the, outside counsel guidelines. I'm working with another client. There's 50 to 100 pages of requirements around, how you're going to work together, and being able to do the simple thing of summarizing what that document says, but then creating a set of rules that you can leverage later down the road so you don't miss things when you start to bill one of your clients that are out there. You can actually be able to summarize it, match those guidelines against rules, and then when you're submitting your time or expenses in the bill, right, it checks it along the way. That stuff wasn't there before, and you end up having this back and forth, and the time to pay was very, very much delayed, or you would lose a lot of money. But now with this technology, because it's all automated and it can provide the solution, man, it reduces that friction. It reduces the amount of, you think about, again, running a better business, the business losing, $1 here, $100 there. Those aren't real numbers. We know it's a little bit more than that, but like those types of things, you think about other things that are out there too. And one of the tasks is like, hey, what did I work on today? Right? You think about time entry and the narratives around that. Well, AI can actually help you generate some capability in order to go do that. Why? And what looks good? What does it match against what the clients are expecting? Like so many different aspects around that. And then you just think about the billing process and other aspects that are out there that is very tedious, and right, really speeding up that whole process. So there's endless amount of, possibilities in that space for our law firms to be able to go do. There's another aspect around just how you work, right? And we see the evolution of the chatbot experience, right? So we all have, of use, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, right? All the different kind of AI technologies that are out there, to be able to just ask a question, kind of understand it and whatnot. And then doing that on your own data in the legal space, you can just think of the art of possible, whether it be, how does this product work, right? How do I do X, Y, Z? So, you get now help is done in a different way, right? There comes down from, I had all these different manuals back in the day and reading these 100-page things about a software application to, hey, you get documentation maybe inside the product, right? How do I do this? How do I do that? Maybe some videos. But now being able to have it at your fingertips to say, pick up your phone, ask it a question and say, hey, how do I have this? Right, that experience to really, or do something, really changes it, because it allows you to do it just in a different way. And again, work where you want, how you want. And so big pieces towards that. And then you can imagine, all right, well, that's how-to information. I'm having this issue to help solve those into problems with the code or the application that you're working on. But then you start to go into the future, and the future is where, like, I get really excited about what the art of the possible is for this space, because there's things that, you look at it and say, hey, I'm working with if you're a law firm, you're working with Aderant, tell me all things about Aderant, right? So who are all the timekeepers there? What are the open invoices? What is the work that I have? What do we project in the future? Because maybe they've been around for, we've been client for 5 years and you can see trends over time, but really get all of that information so that you can have a truly 360-degree view of your client. And then you start to do and say, well, there's tasks that I have out there today that I manually go through. What if I just talked and had AI be able to do that task for me? Like, hey, I want to invoice or I want to appeal this invoice. Man, it can just go through that, through the technology and the software to be able to provide solutions in a whole lot greater way. So there's a lot of things, Will. I could keep going on for it, but a lot of opportunity here in the legal space.
Let's lean a little bit more into the art of the possible. You being the Chief Technology Officer at Aderant, you lead a team that is building new technology. Take us through that process. What do you guys look for when you're deciding what to build next?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that we look at is really kind of comes down to what are the biggest problems our law firms are having or facing today and being able to solve it. And I'll tell you, most AI projects, right, they start and they don't kind of go anywhere, at least in this, the last couple of years within it, because it's like, well, I'm going to do something. I want to really use this tech. And, I think this would be a cool application. All true, all good stuff. But at the end of the day, it didn't solve a problem that the customers were really needing to really simplify their workflow. So the number one thing is really goes around, solving their biggest problems and the challenges that they face day in and day out. And that to us goes into, hey, you think about one of the aspects from that business of law side again, and it was the viewpoint around AR, right? So accounts receivable and what the information that you're getting in. A lot of technology that's out there, but it's a very manual process. I've got to take this and match it to some bank system, validate it. So you're crossing, looking, entering values in. Well, we can automate that whole thing with generative AI to be able to go kind of do the matchings, give you the suggestions and kind of move forward with it. It's just really that automation of it. And it was a real problem that our clients were having to be able to kind of do this. It was just a long process. So it was like, okay, we've heard that a lot. We're going to go solve it. I talked a little earlier about that outside counsel guidelines, being able to kind of do that. The old days with it, it was print out the guidelines, you get your highlighter out there, you mark it up, and you hope later down the road that you met your guidelines. There was no system in order to really do it and do it in a way that was, you could trust the results and other things. So big problem in the market we need to solve. It's a big, not market, but a big problem for our clients really to do that. So it's really all about that. And when we think about, that future and the other aspects towards there, it keeps going to that view of like, how can we simplify the day in the life of whether it be a biller and the back office team or the lawyer on the front end? How do we simplify everything that they're doing? And that's where, that vision of automatically generating narratives for them based off of a task or code that they've been working on to be able to do that we know is going to be successful based off of what good looks like and training, right? And it comes down to data, I know, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But with all of that, we can generate it. That's going to save the timekeepers so much time in their day to be able to, quite frankly, do more with what they have. So it's solving those larger problems, making things easier. So we're just constantly looking at those larger problems. We talk to our clients all day, every day, just about kind of, what challenges they have, what are the things that they could need to improve on, what takes the longest for them. Take a look at that, leverage it. There's a million, like we talked about, a million use cases. So it's really about solving those problems.
Now with AI, there's always a conversation around ethical use, data privacy. In today's world, cybersecurity is always a hot topic, big issue for law firms and businesses just in general. As a leader at Aderant, what's your approach to ensuring that AI is safe for law firms or for clients that are leveraging AI and Aderant's technologies?
It's the biggest thing that's coming out, right? With all of the excitement that was out there when you think about AI and just what the art of that possible was, right? Really quickly followed was, wait a second, what are you doing with my data? Is it private? Who can access it, right? Because it was, a lot of the models that were out there is all public, and it's going to then leverage it to train other information. And it's like, well, no, can't do that, especially in the law firm space, because of how, sensitive some of the clients is. So data privacy is, certainly the number one thing. And so there's a lot that we can do to kind of control it, right? One is, making sure that you have your own self-hosted large language model. So the technology is there. You can keep it private within your own instance to do that, so that it's not shared with, the open AIs or the Microsofts or the Googles and, et cetera, that is out there. Because, right, you can have your own data, your own instance, be able to go leverage that and do your augmentation. So, it's really that privacy and the instance and the technology around, all right, how you're going to deploy this technology that you have. But then it comes down to, that's not just good enough, right? Because there's more when we think about cybersecurity, like you said, and other aspects of it, right? The end-to-end encryption of the data. So we're ensuring that all data processed by the AI system is encrypted both in transit and at rest, right? Preventing unauthorized access that's out there. So whether it be, again, that private instance of, okay, the data doesn't go anywhere outside of kind of our model, to then that end-to-end encryption around that is absolutely there, right? Then there's data anonymization, right? Techniques that we lead and will leverage, right? Of, anonymizing sensitive information, protecting the client identities, right? Because there's some things when you think about, guidelines and other things that we can learn from and train or do other things on, but you can't have that sensitive data out. So we continue to do that. Certainly, there's a lot of rules and regulations that are out there as well. When you think about, some of these privacy things, we all know and to be hearing in, Europe and the GDPR kind of statements, and then, CCPA here in California, in the States, right? And these privacy laws. So adhering to all of those, being SOC compliant and really following the industry best practices around, security and certifications, right? Having the in-depth kind of control around that is absolutely some of the other things that we do on a day-to-day basis within our apps, and everything that we build is really built with that security first, right? The data privacy security first mentality around what we do. And we're going to ensure that that's the case as we deliver these solutions.
Piggybacking on that, delivering solutions, AI is rapidly evolving. There is always something new to ensure that Aderant is delivering innovative AI solutions that are taking law firms to the next level, because I'm pretty sure it's kind of tough to just always stay ahead of the curve because things are always rapidly changing.
The technology is growing and changing at such a rapid pace, like none other in the history of the software technology. Again, the last 40, 50 years, right? This is a new trend. It is just that curve is just going up like we haven't seen before. And it's changing all the time. And so, one of the key aspects around it is not getting locked into a single kind of solution that's out there. When you think about the large language models, and you even go to Hugging Face, and if you go look at the models that are on Hugging Face today, right, an open source platform for technology in the AI space here, you'll get lost in how many different models that are out there. They mostly do different things and are focused on different aspects. So it's really getting a good understanding of, what are things being built for and designed for? How are they trained on it? And all the other aspects towards it. And so really, it's really about experimentation and trying out the different aspects that are out there in order to be able to go and take advantage of it, because it's constantly looking at it and leveraging that tech. There were some things I was looking at last month or so, right? Where now it's not for the legal space and the terms, it could be, but it's called v0.dev, right? And it allows you to generate code in a whole lot fashion, right? User experience type code. And it's really phenomenal, right? And so, being able to experiment with that, right? Because that type of capability within that was actually better than what gets generated through some of the Copilot things. The Copilot does a little bit better back end, with GitHub at the back end type of source code. Same with OpenAI, with GPT-4 and other aspects, and Gemini and Claude and all the other things. And so for me, it's really about the experimentation. And quite frankly, having people and giving the teams and my team the ability to kind of always be constantly learning for this technology, trying new things out. It's the only way that's out there. Reading, certainly there, and, doing all of the things, it's that constant learner view of the world is the only way to do it. To continue to play with the technology and experiment with it, is the number one thing for us to be able to stay on top of it. Because if I were to just go in and say, hey, tomorrow I'm just using OpenAI or GPT, the GPT stack of things, I'm going to miss out on so much. And so it's being open to all of that technology, playing with it and learning and trying it out on a day-to-day basis is really the way that, we can stay ahead of the curve and deliver then those solutions for our clients.
The great thing about AI is that there are many companies playing in the space, and I've seen the Microsofts of the world collaborate and partner with OpenAI to kind of drive their AI capabilities. Can you discuss the importance of partnerships and collaborations when it comes to the development of new AI solutions?
There's a lot there. I think it's super, super important when we think about it. And, I'll just use, examples within our space in the legal world for sure. There's aspects to it that says we know most of our law firms, not all of them, but there's a good portion of them that are heavy Microsoft users, right? And they're leveraging it in all of their technology. They're going to do some things on their own with AI. And it could be the Microsoft 365 Copilot kind of world where you've got your chat experience plus the Teams integration and the Outlook integration and all of their kind of apps kind of being integrated, and they can leverage it for all these different things. You just actually think about the view of the chat experience that you get with Copilot for Microsoft. Well, it's really powerful. Well, then if I come out and we have one that's a chat experience, how does it integrate there? Because you can just imagine all of a sudden you've got 10 different products, 10 different chatbot experiences. Well, what does that do for you, right? And so how do I integrate and work with it? Because our chat stuff is different because it's very unique with the amount of data that we have that we're being able to train upon. So we can work and partner with them really good in order to be able to provide a better experience for our clients. And they've got the technology. And so integrating to do things around just even, some of the things that we do. And you think about, some of the things on a day-to-day basis for a lawyer or a timekeeper, being able to go into your Teams channels or Outlook, be able to understand your calendar, being able to then map that to what you might want to expense that's out there because you were on a call or you're reviewing documents and then auto-generating it. But if we can integrate and partner with folks around that, we can get a whole lot more, value to our clients versus us building a siloed application. Because anybody can build a siloed application, but it's that integration with the partnerships in order to be able to do that really can take you off. And whether that be a Microsoft, a Google with Gemini and some of the things that they're doing, or, with AWS that we also partner very closely with, it's those partnerships to be able to accelerate what we're having and building. And we can do it a whole lot quicker and smarter. And then think about those data privacies, the security aspects of it, and building things alongside of them and just instead of just ourselves. And it'll be, large companies that are out there, right? They've got a large ecosystem, and plugging into that really allows you to be able to do things a lot more closely aligned with where the future is going, kind of to the previous question. Because to your point, right, Microsoft and what they're doing with OpenAI and the investments that they have there, right? They're going all in. They're going to be on the cutting edge of what's coming next from the core technology side. And so those that want to build solutions on top of it can take advantage of what their investment is. And so we can do that in a whole way versus, hey, we're just going to be in our own silo, do our own thing. We're not going to be able to, necessarily keep up as well as really provide our end users with the experience they need.
I always want to end with a question that talks about the future, I would say. This year, Aderant has been big in the space of AI and cloud-based technology. We launched our virtual associate at Aderant called Maddie, in addition to Strident and other technologies as well. What future trends do you see around AI, and what can we expect from Aderant in 2025?
Yeah, there's so much, when I think about that kind of going, the biggest thing for me is that, these large language models are just going to continue to get better, right? And they're going to get more accurate. And so OpenAI introduced about a month and a half ago, right? The OpenAI, 01, right? And it's a new large language model that's trained kind of with that reinforcement learning to perform complex reasoning. It really then goes in and says that it thinks before it answers, right? And so that just in itself says it, right? It thinks before it answers, because a lot of it was, hey, the really great technology and being able to go do that, it was all trained off of maybe all this information on web that could be old or not. And so it's doing this more reinforcement learning of it that is really going to provide us with more accuracy kind of in the future. I was talking with a company just yesterday, and one of the things, it was an interesting thing, right? And the view was, you went into OpenAI and ChatGPT and you asked it some employment law kind of questions. What's the minimum wage in Oregon? Now, if you ask it that question in ChatGPT, it's actually going to give you the wrong answer, because it's very complex around which city you're in, and based off of maybe the size, right? There's pieces of that in California too, based off of the size of your company in which city means a different view. And so it comes down to, the data that's processed underneath it, right, versus kind of that's out there. And so when you start to get some of these large language models to then be able to kind of think of it and reason it a little bit better of what's the latest documentation, trying to find it, curate it, think through it, and do these things, really is going to take us to a whole nother level. Now, the additional things is like, well, when with the core kind of technology that's out there and the data that, we can provide kind of to the system, then you really truly get it. Because like this company that I was talking to, well, they had great data. And so when you asked it that question, right, was really great answers, and it was the exact answer that it was expecting, and it was 100% accurate. And so you start to, be able to get the technology that's going to continue to improve, marrying it with the really good and strong data and that's out there. And so it's those things around kind of that reinforcement kind of learning that I'm most excited about, because there's going to be so much of this technology that will continue to happen. It'll make it easier for me to write code and do some other things, but that just constant LLM just improving upon its accuracy, how it kind of does and gets the answers and the information that's there, is really just a big piece to it. And so when I think about, for us, what we're going to do a whole lot when we think about, what we'll deliver from Aderant for our clients, right? And it goes into, where you mentioned it, right? We launched and announced our Ask Maddie capability, that virtual assistant in 2024 here, right? Simple problem resolution, access to that product documentation. So how do I leverage this product? How do I find this information? Maybe I'm having the error trying to set something up and do all of that, but then it gets into the full, creation of reports and analytics. When we actually start to think about it, then it's integrated into, every single one of our products, so that you can start to go in and say, hey, if you're an expert user of that product, and you can ask the system, use that same example, what invoices should I appeal? And I get to interact with it. And so it's no longer just that information of how to and other things. What you'll see from us coming forward is that information around, give me insights against the data that's out there. Because that's really where the true value, I think, for these law firms in the space that we serve is really going to be all about. It's going to be that insight that they can get out of the information to then be able to kind of go do that task. So doing a number of things with that Ask Maddie kind of view of the world, right? We're going to do expense capture in a more automated way through AI, right? You've traveled and you think about some of the applications that some things exist. There's not a lot in the legal form, but you've got your card and you can then automatically, attach that with the receipt that then goes in, and it's the expense that you want to be able to go and submit that's out there. So you can automate that whole thing. And so then for the end user, I know personally, I do expenses here. I don't like it. I don't want to go through the process, right? You can't do all these things. Man, if something just automatically did it for me, man, we really could do some really cool things. And again, solve problems for our clients. When we think about bill to cash and the analytics and appeals and forecasting in our bill blast suite, financial budgeting and forecasting. We think about as a law firm, we talk about running a better business. How do we get them to be able to run that? Well, we can forecast, we can do better budget planning. Is this particular matter that we take, how profitable is it? How can I make it more profitable? If I've got a senior partner that's working on it versus maybe an associate that's out there, we can do some things. What's the best way to kind of accomplish those things? So there's things that we can do with that understanding based off of history and other aspects. Real-time risk mitigation coming from our docketing, solution. And then in our VI space, there's, again, an endless amount of things, but you can start to do feedback summarization, intelligent resource allocation, and other aspects in that space. So really exciting time. I love being able to lead the team, creating all this really cool solutions and leveraging this technology. But I think more importantly, our clients are going to be able to see some really good stuff from us to really help solve some of their biggest problems.
Well, Andy, we are excited about the end of 2024 and 2025 as well. I know that you and your team are very busy, so we are going to let you go, but you have to promise to stop by Studio A again, because we would love to hear more about all things AI and all of the super cool things that you and your team are doing to drive innovation across the legal tech space. So thank you for joining Studio A, and I hope to see you again on the show.
Well, thanks, Will. Appreciate it. Love being here, and I'll come back anytime.
That was Andy Hoyt, Chief Technology Officer at Aderant. Thanks for listening to Studio A. For more from this episode, visit Aderant.com. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat, and we'll see you next time in Studio A.